Mike Vannelli, who's the creative director for Think Envy, based in California. So Mike, great to have you on the show. Thanks for coming and talking to me today.
Thanks for having me.
So I was looking at your bio and stuff like that. You're clearly working in one of the fastest growing vectors in creative design or creative video. So perhaps you can talk to me a little bit about your hero story in terms of how you got to where you are.
Sure. Yeah. So I've always wanted to be in the film industry or film related industry ever since I was little. So once I started kind of getting more of a footing, I realized that I did want to make a living doing it, and it's kind of hard to do it. It's in the really competitive industry. So pretty much I was looking for what could I do that I could still have my hands on a camera, but people would pay me to film. So the easiest barrier to entry that I found, at least at the time, was music videos. So when I was first starting out, this was before Facebook groups and things like that. So mainly it was just musicians posting on Craigslist, seeing if anybody could do their music video for free or for a really low budget. I didn't have a portfolio at the time, so I kind of was upfront with them about that and said, yeah, I'll do it for free, but just to let you know that I'm doing this for the experience, but also make sure I do a good job. So I did that for years while having a day job at the same time. And then I was getting pretty high up doing that. By the time I stopped, I was doing music videos for some pretty big name artists like Wiz Khalifa, 3-6 Mafia. And I wanted to do a change. It was just getting not repetitive, but it was a lot of the same that I felt, at least that I was doing. So I still needed to make money, and I still wanted to make sure that, again, people were paying me to do videos. And so the only other thing that really made sense was advertising and doing commercials. And so pretty much had to start over. Didn't have a portfolio of that, but it did seem a little more lucrative when it comes to the longevity of it. So thankfully, this is when the iPhone App Store started really booming and a lot of people were making apps. And so I reached out to a lot of people making those apps and I said, hey, do you need a video? And a lot of them wanted one. And so I started making app videos, and the more I did, the more experience I got, the more I was able to charge. And that was over 10 years ago. And yeah, then I just kept doing more and more and more until I am where I am.
So in terms of, again, I mean, it sounds like you've reinvented yourself a few times just to try and keep sort of chugging away.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we're in a sort of a situation now where, I mean, most of the podcast guests I've had on, we've invariably talked about COVID and we talked about AI because those seem to be two kind of underpinning things that have almost like run through everyone's veins at some point in time over the last few years. So how was your sort of work impacted by COVID? And then obviously more up to date now, what's the impact of AI in regards to the impact that it's having in your business?
Sure. Yeah. So with COVID, I mean, it impacted us for a while just because we do have our own studio where we do all of our filming. So for a while thankfully we had enough of a backlog of projects that we didn't need to film that we had already filmed, so that when people turned to work from home, specifically our editing team, they were able to work from home just fine. We had to outfit them a little bit to be able to work from home, but we thankfully were in the Los Angeles area, which was kind of the best place to be when it comes to the industry that we're in, because we really only had to go maybe about a month or so working from home before the California and Los Angeles kind of opened up being able to go and do in-person filming, obviously with a lot of restrictions, but while the rest of the country that wasn't allowed because that's kind of the bread and butter of the Los Angeles area, it was lifted pretty quickly. So thankfully, we only had to kind of be at home without filming for about a month. Clients did understand that we had to push back filming, but we were able to get up and running pretty quickly after that. And so we're thankful for that.
Just lots of sanitizer and masks.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, we actually still have our social distancing stickers on our floor because they were there for so long that we can't really get them off. So, but yeah, so with AI, because we do commercials specifically where it's an actual one of our actors holding a product or talking about a product. When it comes to like video generation AI, things like that, we always keep up on it. We always want to see what the latest and greatest is. And usually when a new video AI generator comes out, we always want to try it to see kind of how far off they are. And so far, so good, at least for us. We try to try it out with, say, like just sample products that we have. Like if this was a client video and somebody was holding the product, how would it look like in an AI generated video? And thankfully, they're still not there yet. It's still not very good at that.
They'll get there eventually. Do you think it'll eventually get to the point where AI is kind of on a par with this type of work you do? Because I mean, I think because you're a creative shop, there's so much more to it than just the actual the end output, right? There's an awful lot about the ideation, the scripting, the kind of and the analysis of what does the actual talent need to be in terms of gender, age group, all that sort of stuff. Which again, I think a lot of people just kind of go to AI, throw in a kind of prompt and go, oh yeah, that's fine, that's great. But I think I know that sometimes it's kind of good to just get things out of the blocks. I mean, almost like use a kind of like an MVP to just say, well, let's just see a little bit of what it's like. And then from there, we can kind of go on to full on production. So yeah, I just wondered whether you think we'll get to that point. And if so, will it be a year, 5 years, 10 years? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I guess. Like I said, there have been a lot of advancements in video AI specifically when it comes to generating video, but I think it's a pretty long way off to get to the same, I guess, quality and consistency that you would get out of like a live action production. One thing that we actually do use AI for is in our script writing. So we write all the scripts ourselves, but we do like to use AI when it comes to either writer's block or maybe thinking of jokes. So for instance, we were doing a commercial for this bicycle company, and we wanted to have a bunch of bicycle related jokes sprinkled throughout the video. And our script writers they were just having a hard time thinking up just bicycle related jokes. And so that's like one instance where we do use AI saying, here's the scenario, give me a bunch of bicycle related jokes. And yeah, and it helps a lot for stuff like that. One of them was like, oh, this really grinds my gears. And so yeah, so when it comes to stuff like that, AI really helps, but there's only so much that AI can do when it comes to, at least in our industry and in our business, like talking to a client, understanding their needs. If it's a physical product, we receive the product, we're looking at the product, and we're able to kind of write the script and make the videos that way.
So, I mean, again, like if you've got your own studio, I always find I know from my own experience of, if you're like reinventing myself because of COVID. I mean, I had this sort of situation where I used to travel probably 2 or 3 months of the year to various countries around the world, doing workshops, presentations. Then obviously COVID happened, that completely put the kibosh on that. So I found myself kind of like having to do a lot more stuff from home. So I ended up investing in lighting and cameras and that sort of equipment. Again, I don't know about you, it's one of my pet peeves. Whenever I sit and watch somebody being interviewed on the news or something like that, I always look at the lighting, audio, right, to see just how good it is, right, and obviously video as well. And I'm just stunned at how many people they kind of take the trouble to put on a shirt and a tie and make their hair look good and everything, but the audio is horrible, the video is horrible, the lighting's horrible, and for me, I just dial out. I don't know, like I guess the point I'm trying to make is, have you thought with your production studio, have you thought about like renting it out for people that may want to do podcasting? Because I mean, at the moment, I'm sort of podcasting on the cheap, right? But I'm sure at some point in time, I may well go, I need to kind of go and have a proper podcast studio, proper lighting, the sort of almost like the Joe Rogan, two microphones, 2 chairs, or whatever it might be, shooting the breeze and doing it in person. And I know a lot of people who have gone down they've invested money in gear. They've got a whole bunch of camera gears and lenses and everything else sitting gathering dust. They may have kind of pivoted a little bit to do other things. But what they've done is they've reinvented themselves and they've turned themselves into production studios or podcast studios to enable them to, one, create their own podcast, but two, like rent their space out for people that may want to use that.
Yeah, we've actually done that quite a bit. So normally when say like a podcast or somebody that wants to do a podcast comes to us and says like, hey, can we rent one of your sets to film our podcast? We say sure. And they normally say, well, we have our own equipment. Is that okay? And we go, yeah, that's totally fine. You can come in and use it. But normally they say, well, just curious, do you guys have equipment that we can use? And we say, yeah, we do, but we would be the ones handling the equipment. And so all you would need to do is just show up, tell us where you want, and then we would set you up. And so kind of like you, a lot of people are doing the audio and video podcast. So because we have all the audio equipment, we have a mixer, we have multi cameras. Pretty much they just come in and they say where they want to film and how many people, and then we just handle all the setup and all the microphones. So what they do is they just bring in a hard drive, and so they just leave with the footage files and the audio files, and then they just handle it from there. So yeah, we've definitely done that, and I think it's a little bit easier for them because all they have to do is just show up. They don't really have any other setup.
Yeah, because I remember I went in the evening. I went to a department store in London. It's right in the middle of central London. There's a road called Tottenham Court Road, and on this road there's a department store which is the oldest department store I think in the UK. I think it was like first founded in 1700 and something, and the building that they've been in since like 1700 and something, right? So they've been there forever. So they don't have a mortgage on the place. It's kind of owned outright. Big place. But what they found was that they were open as a department store from sort of 9 in the morning till 6 o'clock in the evening. Then they'd shut the doors, and then they'd open them again at 9 o'clock in the morning the next day, right? And what they realized was that they were leaving a lot of money on the table. So what they actually did was they had a great sort of canteen area with chairs and tables and so on. And what they were able to do is they were able to rent out, right, the space that they had. So they rent the space out, a nominal fee for renting the space. They would pay for the kind of people to kind of serve drinks and snacks and that sort of thing. And then obviously everyone that attended the workshop or whatever it might be, at the end of it, they got the opportunity to kind of wander around the store for a couple of hours or an hour afterwards, right? And if they wanted to kind of buy something, they could, right? So from the store department perspective, it was like really good for them, incremental ancillary revenue that they wouldn't have been making otherwise, using equipment that was already kind of there. I mean, they didn't have to go out and spend any more money on coffee making machines or anything like that. It was all there. They may have just to order some extra pastries or whatever it might be to give people something to eat. But from a cost perspective, minimal, but the benefit of incrementally adding to their revenue was really clever. And I'm amazed at how many people are sitting on assets that are really not kind of taking advantage of. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we only film 1 or 2 days a week in our studio. Otherwise, we're just doing, administrative and post-production, pre-production. And so it just kind of makes sense because like otherwise our sets are just kind of sitting there.
And so, I mean, you mentioned obviously your kind of origins really was kind of TV and everything. How has kind of like the online sort of evolution impacted you, right? I mean, I see on your website, you obviously you have your TV, but you also have UGC and creative videos for that. Is that something that you're seeing a fairly sort of significant uptick in terms of demand? I mean, is that sort of something that's become more popular?
Yeah, so we've been doing for years we've been doing kind of the standard 30-second, 60-second video spots, both TV and online, so on for YouTube pre-roll and just front page of websites, things like that. But it only happened a few years ago that a lot of people really started asking for vertical orientation, short form videos. And we really tried to hold off for as long as we could, but we kind of had to jump on the bandwagon because our clients were asking for it. So then we started offering it. They do see, and we do tell them that it's not just our actor holding up their iPhone, because we do have like a camera rig that somebody is behind, and then it does look like they're holding it, but it's actually just like a metal handle that the actors are holding, so it looks like it.
Yeah.
But our clients can tell because they're like, this looks and sounds a lot better than just an iPhone. But yeah, so that's been going good. But it's funny actually, as of I guess today, this recording, there was like a little bit of a TikTok ban scare here in the US. And it's funny that ever since that happened just a couple weeks ago, a lot of clients have been starting to kind of inquire more about the standard 30-second normal video, not so much the vertical TikTok. I think they got a little spooked, and they want kind of something that they know they can have evergreen and long form instead of kind of relying off TikTok. I think their marketing department got a little scared that they were investing into these short form videos that, you know, who knows the future of those. So
if you, again, I was kind of say, if you're sometimes the crystal ball gazing is the best way to try and establish kind of where things are heading, right? And I mean, I know that obviously TikTok was banned in the States for 12 hours or whatever it was, right?
Right.
And then there was a sort of stay of execution. But again, my understanding is that stay of execution is primarily, what is it, for 90 days or something? And then at the end of that 90 days, I keep looking at it. I keep thinking like there's going to be this sort of like almost like a showdown. It'll be the government in the US will basically say, you have to sell it to us, and bite downs are going to go, there's absolutely zero chance of us selling it to you, right? So kind of like what's going to be the sort of stance at that point, right? I mean, I think it's almost like everyone's going to try and call each other's bluff. And I think the reality of it is that if I was a betting person, I would probably predict, again, I know that the US is a big market for them compared to the rest of the world. It's not that big, right? So there's the kind of uptake of people in Asia, Europe is significant, and ByteDance definitely don't need America on their platform in order for it to kind of work. And I think if anyone's going to lose out, it'll be probably the sort of the millennials in the US that will be the ones that will lose out. And all the people that probably have made a decent living on the back of being able to do TikTok shop and things like that, and advertisers. But I was just kind of curious as to whether you think it'll be a permanent, like 90 days, the bluff will be called again, and it'll just be pushed another 90 days or whatever it might be, or whether they might just go, okay, in that case, let's just forget about it. Let's just let it run and not worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you kind of never know. I kind of think that they'll probably just keep pushing it, but at the same time, even if they don't, I know that when that happened, a lot of creators on there, they saw a big, huge uptick in their subscribers on YouTube and their followers on Instagram and things like that. So hopefully, like, maybe that'll give creators like a little bit of a push, maybe not to put all their eggs in one basket, in the TikTok basket, and kind of start to diversify a little bit. Because there's Instagram, because there's YouTube. A lot of people, they really do like TikTok, but it's not the only player in town. So even if it did go offline and the US didn't have it anymore, it's not the end of the world. There's still other options. That would be like if your favorite burger place went down, then sad because it was your favorite, but it's not like there aren't other burger places in town.
I always remember when TikTok first launched, I kind of resisted going onto the platform for a long, long time. And then I went on it, and I always used to say to people, every time I watch TikTok, I always feel like I need to go and have a shower afterwards. I just felt very dirty and like scummy. But I'm amazed at how quickly their algorithm really got a kind of feel for what I like and what I don't like and everything else, and started to present things in a way that sort of suited my purpose, right? And again, I think in some respects, I think it's because of that I think a lot of advertisers, they may have done well to begin with and started to do badly. And I think it's probably because a lot of advertisers felt that they needed to kind of try and sort of manipulate the algorithm in a way that the algorithm was never going to be manipulated. Again, I think I've always had this kind of contentious issue about UGC, right? So to me, it's always like there's this very, very gray area, right? Because I think so many of the people who are using, like, they sort of talk about the product, but they're not using the product, they're just advertising the product. And I think in some respects that's disingenuous. And I know that certainly if you're an affiliate, I mean, I do a lot of affiliate marketing. If you don't disclose the fact that you're an affiliate, then you could get into trouble with the FCC. I'm just really surprised that it almost seems like content creators that do UGC seem to kind of get a pass, right? They don't have to kind of do any disclosure at all. It seems like they don't have to kind of say, by the way, I'm not actually using this product, and just kind of showcasing the features of it.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, it's funny, in the past maybe 6 months, we've actually seen kind of like a downtick in clients wanting UGC style videos for the vertical platforms. Before, they kind of wanted our actors to do the like holding up the camera and talking to the camera, but we try to keep up to date with all the platforms so that we know kind of what's going on and what's working and what's not.
How do you keep up to date with the platforms?
We just have to use them all. Unfortunately, that's the only way, really. We do have a couple like podcasts and YouTubers that we watch that they kind of go in the nitty gritty about any updates that are happening, things like that. But otherwise, when it comes to like what's actually on the platforms, just using them. What we found is that on TikTok and Instagram Reels, things like that, it seems like every third or fourth video is an ad, and it's just a sponsored video, an ad, and a lot of them are still the UGC style. And I think our clients have kind of seen the fatigue that users are getting, where as soon as they see that and they see it's an ad, they just scroll right by, and they don't want to hear about it because they know they're getting marketed to.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, one of my clients said, if we're gonna pay to get an ad done, we might as well make it look like an ad and feel like an ad and be creative like an ad, rather than just getting somebody talking to the camera, because that's what everybody's doing. And yeah, like said, in the past 6 months, we've kind of seen a lot of clients kind of going that way, where they figure, if we're going to be paying for an ad, we might as well make it entertaining and not look like every other one out there. So at least they're wanting to stay on the page and watch it a little more and not look like everybody else.
Yeah, I think the thing that always kind of got me was that, again, I think obviously you buy Instagram ads through the sort of Meta or Facebook ad platform, and you can choose all your various placements and so on. So, and again, I think Facebook have heavily doubled down on, you need to produce video, you need to produce video, you need to produce video. And I keep thinking, like, is the reason for that because the typical, because it's pay for impressions, right? Again, if you go and buy programmatic advertising, right? Let's say you wanted to kind of get connected TV, you'd probably pay a minimum, like a sort of entry level price of probably $20 to $25 CPM, right? Whereas if you just run sort of standard banner ads, you could probably get them for $2 or $3 CPM, right? So clearly for Facebook, there's more of an incentive for them to promote heavily the video, because their CPMs typically start at 25 and go up to sort of 45 plus, right? Whereas again, if you're doing images, then the CPMs tend to be a lot lower. So they say, oh, you're going to get as much exposure, you're not going to get as many impressions. And I look at it and go, well, I'd rather pay $5 CPM than $25 CPM. And even if I get less impressions, it's costing me less money. So, but I think because they're in charge of the platform, they can dictate and tell advertisers what they think should be done, right? And I think you're right. I think because every third kind of scroll is an ad, right? People are becoming blind to it now. They're just going, don't want to watch that anymore. And as you say, I think a lot more people are. Again, I think more people are moving to smart TV, so there's a lot more sort of stuff that's being watched on bigger screens. Even though everything was kind of dumbed down to mobiles, I think more and more people are consuming their content, whether it's podcasts, whether it's like social media, they're consuming it on 75-inch TVs. So if you have like a really poorly made, poorly audioed piece of content, it's going to look really bad on a 75-inch TV, right? So I think you need to kind of scale up rather than scale down. And I
Yeah, I
think that's
gotta
where a lot
use
of
that real estate.
yeah, I think that's where so many advertisers are making mistakes. They're trying to go down rather than going up. So I think that's quite an interesting point you made about some of your clients kind of going, we're going to go back to almost like the old school. And just going back is sometimes the best way of going forward. So in terms of the sort of the challenges, I mean, I think one of the things with sort of digital marketing agencies is the barrier to entry is incredibly low. Would you say in your sort of line of work, the barrier to entry is much, much higher because of the capital cost associated with setting up a business?
Sort of. It just depends on kind of what structure you want. So I know a guy that runs. I don't even know if you would call it an agency. Pretty much, all he does is UGC video editing assembly. Pretty much, so he finds videos that other people have made, and people order stuff or order UGC videos from him, and he just assembles kind of edits and reels of what other people have made. And I've told him like, hey, like just be careful because that's not your content, but doesn't really care. But there's a lot of people that do that. But he just kind of works from home. He's a one man team, and that's all he does, and that's how he makes his living. We know other people that they don't have like a physical space. They just again they run their business from home, but anytime they need to film, either they have their own camera or they go rent their gear, they rent the location, they have the crew that shows up, things like that, and they do custom castings for actors. So they kind of they work themselves, but then they bring in everything. So when it comes to stuff like that, there's a pretty low barrier to entry. You just kind of have to know what you're doing. For us, at least, our kind of business model is we have a little over 5,000 square foot studio. We have a lot of standing sets, so a lot of that you would find in commercials. Over to my left here is a cafe set. Back there, you can kind of see there's like a house set and an office set. Kind of just a lot of
just a green screen behind you then.
no, it's all real. But yeah, so we built out our studio so that when we have all of our lights are already hanging. So we have all of our studio spaces, so we don't have to go rent locations. We own all of our own equipment, so we don't have to rent. And then we have a roster of actors that are employees. So we obviously vet them and make sure that they're good actors. But yeah, whenever we're doing filming, that's why a lot of the time when clients come to us, they see the same handful of faces. But then that way we don't have to do castings for every time, and we're able to kind of like bring and all of our post-production, pre-production, and production, all of the crew and everything is done in-house. So we really don't have to reach outside of our company unless we really, really need to. And that's kind of one way where we're able to kind of bring costs down for the client, because everything is pretty streamlined, and we also have kind of a high bandwidth for projects. So, but again, kind of big barrier to entry, because you have a lot of stuff that you need to do before you can even start. And we didn't start with this. This is our fourth studio, so we've just been, every time we outgrow one, we get a bigger one. So yeah, it just
reinvested into the kind of evolution.
exactly. So if it just kind of depends on the business model and how much you want to put in, and so that kind of dictates the barrier to entry.
And in terms of like your acquisition strategies for kind of finding clients, I mean, how do you kind of go about finding the people that to work with?
Yeah, so we have ads all over the internet. We have kind of one thing that we did is we have a few different types of videos that we offer to clients. That some are more geared towards Reels and TikTok, and some are more geared towards, say, Amazon product pages and the normal commercials. So what we've done is we kind of made videos or promotional videos for those projects in the style of the project. So it explains what the style is while kind of showing you at the same time. And we we have those ads all over the place. So when they're watching the video, they not only learn about the service we offer, but they're kind of seeing an example of the service at the same time.
And you're very transparent with your pricing. I mean, again, I went to your website. You're very transparent with your pricing. How do you kind of like, again, one of the things that bugs me more than anything is scope creep, right? In terms of what's in scope and what's out of scope. And when people ask you to do things, again, I think a lot of agencies will just go, yeah, we'll do that. Before you know it, you're kind of doing 3 times as much work for the same money. And again, I've got friends that basically say how they handle that is they would go back to people and say, okay, well, that's kind of outside the scope. What would you like me to take out of kind of what we're doing for you now to incorporate that? And they can decide themselves as to what they think is important or not, or they can pay more money, right? It's a kind of like very polite way of saying you need to pay more money. Do you find that as being an issue for you?
Sometimes. So we've done over 5,000 ads up to this point, and by now we pretty much know exactly how much the ad will cost based on what we include. We just call it our base pricing, and so we just tell our clients, and kind of like you said on our website, it kind of shows exactly what's included. So for instance, on our like commercial videos, you get script writing, you get up to 3 of our actors. You don't have to use all 3. Sometimes it just calls for 1 or 2. It includes our locations that we have in studio. So pretty much we have what's included in our base pricing. A lot of the time we do have clients that ask, well, can you do stuff outside of your base pricing? Yeah, sure. It's just going to be additional. The base pricing is just kind of what you're seeing, the pricing. But I'd say like 80% of clients, they just stick to our base pricing because they know exactly what they're going to get. And we just tried to make it as like Amazon as possible, where it's like click to buy. You see what you're getting, and you can just move forward right there. We used to do contracts and custom invoices and this and that, and sometimes it would just take weeks to close a client. But now it takes a day or 2, and it's mainly just them deciding if they want to. It's not us having to put stuff together and back and forth and blah blah blah. So,
and you've also, I think one of the other things I looked at was the number of reviews you've got on Fiverr seems like it's huge number of reviews that you've got. Why is that? Why have you kind of like? It seems like you've embraced Fiverr in a way that I've seen not very few businesses in the creative space kind of do.
Yeah. So one of the things that we did kind of early on is before. So we kind of have our Fiverr side of the business, and a lot of the time, and we haven't done it in a long time, but what we used to do is we kind of used Fiverr as kind of a proof of concept. So if we were trying out like a new video style or a new service that we offer, we would put it on Fiverr to see if it had any merit, to see if people would buy it. And before we put money into like advertising on Facebook or YouTube or anywhere else, it was kind of just a way for us to just test a proof of concept. And some things worked, some things didn't. So, but being able to test things out on there kind of allowed us to gain a lot of reviews, allowed us to kind of hone our pricing, what people were willing to pay for, what they weren't willing to pay for. That's where we were able to kind of really solidify like our base pricing and what's included and what people need, what they didn't. So yeah, but just over the years, because we've not only used it as kind of a proof of concept, if it was working, we would just keep it on there. And so we do get a fair amount of business from Fiverr, but we also get business directly from our website. And it's just kind of, if we have a similar checkout process to Fiverr. If people order directly from our website, it's just like our client portal, and they're kind of able to do the exact same thing. But sometimes clients, they already have a Fiverr account. They already maybe have some funds in there, and so they want to go that route. Or if they just want to work with us directly, then we kind of give them 2 avenues to go with. So it's kind of lowering their barrier to entry, placing an order with us, because they have different options. They don't have to kind of choose one.
I'm always amazed at how few businesses will use Fiverr or Upwork or places like that. And I've used them so many times for so many different things. Because again, I think you can obviously pay cheap and get poor quality, but equally you can pay like less money, but still get really, really good output, right? There's so many people that have a profile on Fiverr or Upwork, and they're not there because they're not very good at what they do. It's just that's just something that they've found, they liked it, they stick with it, it works well, and they again, in terms of you ask them to do something, if it's 2-day turnaround, they kind of usually deliver it within a day. The output's good, maybe some revisions if need be. But yeah, I'm always amazed at how few people will use somewhere like that, and they go and spend a ton of money on some very expensive solution that doesn't necessarily always kind of deliver what you want, right? So
yeah, I mean, thankfully our pricing is the same on whether it's on Fiverr or off of Fiverr. So it's really up to the client at that point what they want to do.
if they like the convenience of Fiverr versus kind of going with you directly. So Mike, this has been phenomenal. I've really, really enjoyed our conversation. I mean, like in terms of, I'd love to, if there's an opportunity for it to kind of have you on in the future to kind of talk a little bit more about the evolution of the creative side of things. Because yeah, and I think you're probably the first person I've had on the podcast that has come from more of a creative side of things rather than a sort of tactical sort of ad buying side.
Right.
But I think to me, it's like what you're offering in the discipline is just an integral part of the whole process. I mean, you can only be as good as the products that you're promoting. And sometimes, again, I've been presented with ads by clients, and I'm like, these are just horrible. We've got no chance. I mean, I've always said we're not magicians, right? We can't turn something that's horrible into amazing ad campaign just because they decide they want to throw money at it. Just no amount of money will make a poor ad a good ad, right? So for me, again, I'm always looking for who can I talk to that's got a view and an angle on a particular side of the business that is instrumental to all of us, but probably unknown by a lot. So I really appreciate you kind of taking time out of your day to come on and talk to me today.
Sure.
Okay, thanks a lot.